last week for you in the office here before you head down to beautiful Washington, D.C.
Super excited to be back at the St. James. Looking forward to calling the PLL Championship Series yet again.
And WLL Championship Series.
Yeah. Well, I'm not calling them.
Right.
Yeah,
you'll be there for it.
Yeah, I'll be there for it. And I'm super pumped about the introduction of the WLL, and we'll get into that. I think, let's kind of hit the reset button, remind a little bit about the rules. There's some notable rule changes, but just in terms of scheduling, February 11th to the 17th. So that's going to be the championship series. There'll be a series of round robin games before then moving on to a semifinal and then a championship. So
round robins count a little bit more this year, right?
Let's start there. So I think in terms of structure, previously all 4 teams advanced. So the round robin was almost like a laboratory, if you will. I think people would kind of experiment with different lineups, different strategies, kind of get their kind of feet wet a little bit. You saw a lot of goalies kind of back and forth, either splitting games or splitting halves. Now those games are just much more important because that first round, the first number 1 seed gets a bye, and then the 4th team, they don't even make it. So, less tinkering. I think you got to be dialed in and ready to go right from the jump.
Yeah, and a little bit more experience with the sixes game for a lot of these players now between the USA lacrosse stuff and playing last year. So I think, you don't have as much of the I'm not sure what to, here's what we're going to try to do. We're going to try to execute it, and then we got to make it work right away because, like you said, you come in 4th in that, you would lose 2 games, you might not even get a playoff game, right?
Exactly, yeah. So structurally, things have changed, and then a few rule changes that I think are notable. So real quick reminder of the rules. We got 5-on-5 plus a goalie, no long poles, right? 30-second shot clock, smaller field, and, missed shot. Doesn't matter if you back it up.
No backing it up.
It's a turnover and no
basketball
face-offs.
style. It's like missing the hoop.
It's like basketball on grass, right? And then no face-offs after every goal. So goalie just picks it up. We're kind of up and out.
Does that clearing count? Did you talk about the 10-second clearing count? I jumped the gun there. I'm just ready. I'm trying to get up and out. I'm trying to get up and out, Ryan.
I was just just trying to remind the rules that we have before we're going to change
high speed. It's all about fast pace of play here.
So yes, I think from a rule change perspective, it used to be 20 seconds to get it across, which was basically whatever.
However long you needed.
Yeah, whatever. Versus 10. So I think now you start to get in the headspace of do you see any more kind of pressure rides? Do you see anybody kind of jumping full court press? I think it's going to be more situational.
It's still 10 seconds is still a long time for as good as guys are and as small as the field is.
Yeah.
So, does that 10 seconds count right when the goalie has possession? Is that what the start is? Okay.
So I think you're going to see it in 2 situations most notably. I think number 1, if you have a power play and you don't score, right? You've got that extra player, the extra defender. You could be a little bit more risk-seeking, press out, especially in theory with all defensive personnel on the field as ball carriers and handling. Maybe there's an opportunity to cause a turnover there. Maybe there's an opportunity to kind of actually get a 10-second violation. And you got the free defender to either double right away or kind of serve as a free safety, in case something goes wrong. That's 1. And then 2, I think end of game now becomes a little bit more pressurized, whereas you could kind of just sit back and ride out 20 seconds. Now there's a little bit more urgency from a clearing perspective. You can shut off everybody and see what the goalie does. You can force a pass and then kind of go from there. And there's just, I think the end of game becomes a little bit more interesting than kind of okay, well, this is just going to end, right?
Yeah. No, I like the opportunity to potentially ride the ball back in 10 seconds and not just drop back and play. And I think the other thing that, talk about end of game, you're in a tight game goes to overtime. Last year, what happens?
Sudden death and
pretty much 5 seconds, right? It's a 5-second overtime, 10-second overtime.
I think I saw it. Don't quote me on this. I'm sure our wonderful fact checker, Andrew Goldberg, will check on this. But I think 3 of the 4 games that have gone to sudden death, it was
first shot,
first possession. With maybe the lone exception being the championship game that was back and forth, which was made it so
pretty cool. Exactly. It works when it works, but if you're the team that loses the face, or you lose possession, and then all of a sudden it's a goal. It's
Game's
like, well,
over.
that was it.
Yeah. So that's another huge one, is the sudden death going to overtime. And then from a roster standpoint, everybody gets an extra player. Now, not on the game day roster, but you have an extra player to be able to flex kind of in and out, which helps from a depth perspective, helps if there's any sort of injuries.
And that was an issue last year, right? A
Yeah.
couple of teams got banged up and guys were tired, and so you could see not having that extra guy was tough.
So you have that, which I think just will allow coaches, just if a guy's a little banged up, if a guy's a little tired, you can kind of manage minutes a little bit better. I think also from a scheduling standpoint, with the introduction of the WLL games, all teams aren't playing on kind of back to back in terms of that round robin. So you look at that, plus the extra roster spot, it affords them more flexibility. And also, I think like we should see some fresher legs, which will I would imagine lend to higher level of gameplay as well. So those are kind of the major rule changes. Obviously, the biggest thing, you look at this sixes format. You've called the international, and you jumped the gun. We were trying to get all the rules, but just as another refresher, the 2-point arc is just 13 yards. So the international play, there isn't
No
2-point arc. And then from the PLL Championship series, it's 13 as opposed to 15. So you see a lot of guys that like you wouldn't consider of 2-point threats that now are like.
Pretty good shot. 13 yards is a pretty good shot.
Pretty good shot. And you typically, in the PLL season, you see most 2-pointers are set shots, time and room shots. The guy that could hit one on the run is a rare breed. At 13 yards, obviously time and room are in play. You see a lot more guys that are able to.
Majority of the middies can hit that, right? You would think, and some of the attackmen too.
So Joe Keegan, who's an incredible, put out a stat about Connor Schellenberger. He's a guy to kind of watch in terms of you don't think him as a 2-point threat. And now with this format, and then the other guy that really jumps out in terms of we haven't seen in the championship series yet so far, this will be his first time playing it, is Mac O'Keefe, who obviously has that range.
And he's played indoor prior to that, so he's got that like box kind of vibe to him, which would be cool to see. And that's something I'm excited. On the WLL side, you've got a lot of the women who played in the U.S. for the U.S. box team, so they also kind of bring that box carryover. Whereas, like on the men's side, you lose out on all the NLL guys, which is probably the one downside to the timing of this, right? It's the same time.
So round robin, 11th through the 15th, semifinal on the 16th, championship on the 17th. All games will be on ESPN. All the round robin will be on Plus. Semifinal and championship will be on the Deuce.
Just like the presidents and 4 founders envisioned. Let's talk about rosters. Maryland Whipsnakes, Boston Cannons, Utah Archers, New York Atlas. Early odds-on favorite for you. If you had to just pick one, this is the team that's going to go all the way. Who's it going to be?
I'm always of the ilk. You have the championship belt until somebody takes it away from you. So you look at the Cannons, a lot of those guys returning from last year, and so they've got the experience. They have their systems a little bit more dialed in. They have an ability to basically lean on that success that they had last year. And with Colin Kirst in net and Adam Gittleman backing him up, you look at that kind of 1-2 punch. They've played in multiple. Adams played in multiple championship series. Colin Kirst played last year, won the title. That's always the sneaky little thing, is like, who's the best goalie?
Yeah.
You love to
So important.
You love to focus on the offensive firepower. My brain kind of goes in one of two ways. Like from a basketball perspective, like who's the best player on the floor, right? And last year I thought that was Michael Sowers. And then once he got injured in that championship game, that was just a paradigm shift in terms of how that game kind of played out. So you got the basketball, like who's the best player on the floor, and then you got the hockey of just like who's the best goalie.
Yeah.
And you see this a lot in the NLL of just like a hot goalie and the most consistent goalie, you can kind of just ride him all the way through.
You get like a 60 to 70% save percentage. It's like unreal, and then you.
We're not seeing a 70% save percentage.
And then I'm saying you bring that to this condensed version, you get over 50%, and you're looking great, and your team's got a really good shot if 1 out of 2 shots is not going in, right? So it's like all you got to do is save 1 out of 2 shots. Easier said than done, but that makes such a big difference.
Yeah. So you look at the Boston Cannons. You've got Holman coming back, Knowlton coming back, Campbell coming back, Drenner coming back, Jeff Trainer, two-way guy, Ethan Raw has got experience, Bubba Fairman's got a lot of two-way potentials, tough nose, and then Chris Aslanian, who's also played in this. So there's just a lot of guys that have like played in this format. So I think you look at them and the experience they have. Brody Merrill returns as their assistant coach. Brian Holman returns as their head coach. Like, there's just a lot of continuity there.
There was one change we were basically made aware of right before we started filming this. Yeah, it's a disappointing one. Yeah,
super bummed to hear Will Manny got injured, so won't be participating next week. He's going to be replaced by JJ Silstrop out of Denver. So obviously there's a connection with Will. We were former teammates. We worked together. So just like sad face.
Yeah, but also on the positive side, JJ Silstrop getting an opportunity to step up, and he was dominant in the NCBS box college championships this past fall. I got a chance to see him play, so he'll get an opportunity to try to see if he can crack a lineup now.
I think then who was just the champion is the Utah Archers, right? And you look at them, and I think they're going to certainly have a chip on their shoulder in terms of having played it in 2 years ago. Not coming away with the championship, and that unit, the group that they're going to have is also pretty formidable. You look at a lot of guys have experience: Ambler, Ogden, Piper Bond.
Yeah, this is a core group that's been together for a little while, and they won, like you said, they won a championship together. That's a lot of really talented kind of. I feel like they almost are like the two-way kind of do-it-all midfield style offense and defense, right? The two-way, and maybe I'm wrong there, but it seems like they have a lot of those guys that can do everything between the lines and then score big goals in the offensive end, which is kind of what you got to do in sixes.
They've also got a tough short stick D-mini group, right? You look at Piper Bond, Connor Marr, Pedersen will be there, so all those guys, Mason Woodward, who's obviously plays usually with the long pole, but he's going to be playing with a short stick. But like, they're just a tough, gritty bunch. Do they let them get up and down, or do they kind of go OD with Ament, O'Keefe, Ambler, kind of in particular? So I think kind of curious to see how they kind of play things out. I think the one of the most fun, as I was doing my prep, looking at their goalies, so they got Washuda in net, and then Jack Runkle, who was a part of the Loyola run like a decade ago. Yeah. And so we've been kind of joking like I don't know how many shots he's seen in like.
I think he's around Lacrosse quite a bit. He does a lot of training and coaching, and I feel like every pro who posts about their workouts, they're shooting on Jack Runkle, at least if they're in like the New Jersey, Long Island area. So he's seeing the shots.
Let's shift gears to the Atlas and back to the goalie position, because I think Liam Entenmann is the best goalie there. I think his ability to see a barrage of shots, especially in tight. He's such like fast twitch. And he could be the standout there. A lot of their roster has not played in this format. It's been a couple of years since they've been in the championship series. They played in it 2 years ago. So some of their guys have experience, some of their guys don't. So offensively, you look at what they're going to kind of throw out there, and it's a nice blend. You look at Schellenberger, Xander Dixon, obviously such a threat off ball. Dylan Malloy, Miles Jones. Yeah. So they've got like this.
It's the hockey style. You got the big guy, you got the small guy, you got the tall skinny guy, you got the short wide guy.
They've got a nice blend. Ronan Jacoby on the left side. I think my biggest question mark is going to be for them. We haven't even mentioned Costabile, so like my biggest question mark I think is going to be them on the defensive side. Yeah. So Entenmann can bail them out, but like, where are those shots going to come from? Tyler Carpenter, LSM of the year, like he's dressed, but like I just wonder if they're going to have enough defensively to be able to stand up, over the course of the entire series. So
this is a D-mini game, right? This is like and granted, plenty of stay-at-home defenders long poles can take out a short stick and they know how to defend, but this really is a game built for the two-way defensive midfield type, the guy that can score in transition or just lock down a guy one-on-one, right?
Yeah. Sorry, my head was just drifting to the whip snakes. This is the roster I think I have the most question marks about, and that really just boils down to some guys that we just haven't seen at the professional level. Tate Gallagher, haven't seen him. Jacob Angelos, haven't seen him.
TJ Malone, seen him at the pro level, but not in the championship series.
Matt
right?
Rambo, never seen him in championship series. So there's just, I think they've just got a little bit more question marks for me. I think they got to lean heavily on Ryan Conrad, who's tailor-made for this. He played last year for the Water Dogs, never left the field. The rules are like perfect for him, like truly perfect for him. Super excited about seeing Brad Smith, make his return. But this is the team that I'm not, I'm Dylan Palinetti. I'm not familiar with your game. So there's just a few guys, and I'm just like, I'm not sure exactly how they're gonna perform, just given their lack of experience at the professional level and or the Sixes format.
Well, another guy whose name other people might not know, but we know well, Will Mark. Excited to see him get an opportunity. He was played on our ice teams way back in the day. I got to watch him at the Sixes USA event in Indy, and he was phenomenal for Team Puerto Rico. Yep. And I think that honestly might have been what got him on Jim Stagnita's radar. And he saw a ton of rubber in the Sixes format, and he made some huge saves that kept Puerto Rico in a lot of their games. And so it's really cool for him to have this opportunity, hopefully get some game time.
And he is kind of a microcosm of what I will call the championship series as being like a tryout, and this is really kind of the Ronan Jacoby effect, if you will. So you kind of rewind. Ronan Jacoby had a standout championship series, and then got picked up by Atlas, and then basically used the championship series as a bit of a runway into a bigger opportunity, when it came that summer. So, who is that guy? And I kind of there's a few guys that kind of I'm looking at, we just mentioned with the Whipsnakes lineup of some guys that are just, we haven't seen the professional level. There's really three that stand out to me. Will Mark being one. Number two, Jacob Angelos. I think you look at his career at Hopkins, and especially the way he finished playing positionless lacrosse within John Crawley's offense at Hopkins, his ability to play attack and midfield, operate from a bunch of different spots on the field, effective in the two-man game, effective one-on-one. He makes sense for a lot of rosters, and he's a guy that I think brings a lot to the table without taking much off, doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He's the one guy offensively that I'm really honed in on seeing how he does, because I think he could raise some eyebrows. It got to the point last summer where you're like, how's this guy not on a team? So he's the one guy offensively, and then defensively, Carter Parlett out of Notre Dame is he was a key contributor to their back-to-back titles. And again, you look at that position, short stick defensive midfield, teams are always
it's so crucial. It's like goalies, or for indoor and for the small format, it's like goalies, but then field, it's like short stick team. Can you defend their second, third, and fourth most dangerous midfielders?
And I think his ability to be flexible, playing wings, playing man down, he just brings a lot of toughness, a lot of IQ. Kind of just always seems to make big plays, and he's just somebody that I think as you look kind of past the championship series, if he performs well, I would be shocked if he doesn't get picked up and gets a tryout opportunity and gets basically shepherded or grandfathered into a roster, because that position is just so critical, and they're just in short supply. The high level guys
to be at the top.
It's you can always use another cornerback. You can always use another short stick D-midi. So those are the guys that I'm kind of looking at as the Ronan Jacoby effect, if you will.
Should we shift gears over to the women's side?
Let's do it.
Let's go. The WLL.
So, we talked about how we thought they would construct the rosters, and that they did.
Yeah,
right?
Pretty close. 8 UNC
that's
players
the one that jumps out.
The Carolina/California Palms.
So, the Maryland Charm, obviously, the Terps, the Whip Snakes, the Terps, the Charm, the Terps. You kind of like saw that kind of coming, and I thought that there would maybe be a little like built-in advantage, if you will, especially like the home team, like. And then you start doing the diligence, and it's like California, the Palms have got 8 Tar Heels, and then you look at the charging. They got 5 Northwestern, right, and 4 Cuse.
Yeah.
And then you look at the Boston Guard, and then you got 5 from BC and 4 from Notre Dame.
That's like the Irish Catholic Guard. I thought that was kind of funny.
I'm laughing. So
they got Jesus on their side there.
So I think, real quick, if you're wondering who to root for, there's your allegiance, right?
Yeah.
You either go, I live in California, Maryland, New York, or Boston, or I'm a fan of one of those.
Yeah, I'm in Chicago area, and I'm gonna go with Northwestern women, or I'm gonna cheer for the Cuse girls on New York Charging.
Right, or I love the Tar Heels. It's like I'm cheering for the Palms. So I think like in terms of battle lines being drawn and fandom, I think those are kind of like how you're supposed to move forward.
I do love how there's 2 additional UNC women on 2 different teams. So it's kind of like, oh man, all my UNC women are there. And then Maryland, I think Maryland had another player on a different roster as well. So. But some of those are goalies, and so there was,
some of those are 5th years or 6th years.
Right.
Marge Donovan's a Tiger.
That's true. That's true.
Okay. She's listed, but she's a Tiger.
Yeah.
Okay, she's a Tiger. So
claim your P. You got to claim your people. I get it.
So in terms of fandom, that's how we approach things. But
where are the Ivy Leaguers on this list?
But I was looking at, I thought Maryland would have an advantage just in terms of familiarity, but they don't.
Yeah. It's pretty equal across the board.
Yeah.
And then you look at some of the sixes, women's teams, national teams. You look at the U.S. box team, and there's a lot of overlap on each team. So, and then you've got the AU Pro, the former AU Pro teammates. But I think you're looking at some really balanced rosters in each of them with their own kind of stars in their own right and rising celebrities as well.
And so therefore, I come back to again the basketball and then the hockey model, right? So. Who is the player on each team that could just kind of take over, right? Obviously some names come to mind. Charlotte North, who was the MVP of the Unleashed All-Star game last year. I mean, that's right? Duh.
She's like one of the top players in any lacrosse-related items that she plays in. Box, she was a star. The U.S. women's sixes, she was a star. So she's just hard to defend.
Pick a format. Pick a format.
Put a lacrosse stick in that woman's hand, and she will score goals.
Yeah. I think you look at Izzy Skane, right? Obviously, playing for the Charging, coming off of her Tewaaraton win, like she has the ability to just take over any game and just be so dominant. So I think you look at her, and then obviously we got a rooting interest given the fact that we've worked with her. But Kylie Ohlmiller coming back to lacrosse, coming back from injury, she is just a highlight reel waiting to happen and could explode for goals, assists, and also has the ability just to take over a game offensively. So super excited and super pumped for her personally coming back for injury and to be able to watch her. So she's another player on that team that could just kind of take over the game.
Yeah, they've got a lot. And then you look at Erin Kuykendall, another Northwestern. She's kind of gotten better and better every time I've seen her play. So a lot of weapons on that New York Charging team. And Molly Wolf, assistant coach, she's one of our directors at our Future Icons Tri-State Camp. So great to see her put the whistle on and coach at the pro level.
Yeah, and she's played at the pro level as well. So I think her ability to know how to navigate and kind of manage the rosters, the personalities, the rules. Obviously, she's going to be well equipped to kind of handle all aspects of that job. So super excited to see her involved. And then Ali Mastriani, I think, obviously have a history of working with her. Again, like a two-way dominant player that this format I think is tailor-made for. You announced the game when she was on Team USA in the box. She was just all over the field, obviously more so on the offensive side of things. But she's got experience in both the sixes format, the box format. She's another player. Just what are the rules? I'm going to crush it.
Yeah, and she'll reunite with Erin Bakes, who was
Yep.
phenomenal in that World Box Championships, and who also is a USC. So she's bringing the true California style to the team. Her and Kate DeVere, who also went to USC. But those two together, I think, between their experience box wise and just the style that they play, are going to be really dangerous.
Yeah. The charm, you look at that roster, and again, we thought that they maybe have an inherent advantage, based off the Terps. Maybe not as much, but certainly, then you look at the success that they had as Terps, you're like, well, they're probably going to do well.
Just a lot of national championships going down that roster.
Yeah. Lizzie Colson obviously is somebody that I think has the potential to just have a breakout tournament, breakout round robin, and really thrive. And then Abby Bosco, who's going to be working with us down in spring break training. We have a rooting interest there as well. Had an incredible career at UPenn before then moving on to become a Terp, and has got a lot of Terp pride. And I know she's super excited about reuniting. So there's just a lot. I think what's cool is there was so much excitement when the rosters came out from the players themselves. And I've gotten that feedback, is just the enthusiasm just about reuniting, and I think looking at them, and the captain of this team, Alex Holman, embodies everything that there is that you want out of a Terp, out of a professional level, consummate professional. So it'll be interesting to see how this team performs. And then obviously coached by Taylor Cummings, you're like, she can still be out there.
I was just going to ask, it's do they throw her a stick? Is she the 13th roster member if they need her?
So it's super, super exciting to be able to watch this. And, I think now shifting gears to the hockey, right? I think of from a goaltending perspective, two names jump out. Obviously, Taylor Moreno, who's won MVP at AU, and then Rachel Hall from BC, who had the save of the year. Was that 2 years ago?
Yeah.
So
the walk-off.
Yeah, the walk-off save. So I think those two names, and this is no disrespect to anybody else, I'm just saying those two names are the ones that kind of jumped out to me of could they then be that hot goalie or the most consistent goalie that kind of takes over?